Hello and welcome to In the Light, Growing Your Soul with me, Anna Isabel. And I am delighted because today I am in the company of Althea Finch. Hello, Althea.
Hello, Hello, Isabel. We meet at last online.
Yeah, it's one of those things that we actually met in person first.
Mm.
That is such an unusual occurrence.
That's so rare. It is actually, isn't it? It's crazy.
So
Yeah,
it
you were with David Charalambos, and I've done a lot of work with him already, and he's amazing. And then I met him through him, wasn't it? And just
yeah.
recently, yeah.
Regular viewers may remember that I did interview David about the way that the mind works and how we can easily be manipulated and how we can avoid being manipulated. And so, yes, if you haven't seen the interview, it's brilliant. Do go and look for it. But today, I, I am here with Althea, who is the pain-free specialist. And that is why I'm so excited because your work is the stuff of inspiration for me. So it would be a good thing perhaps to start with your journey in healing. How did you get into healing?
Well, there's kind of several routes, and it's a bit difficult to say exactly where did it start. I mean, I was always into natural remedies and about the body and quite physical, sort of graphical ways. You're talking, early starts. I loved geography and biology at school, and my first job was as an aerobics instructor. There's lots of layers, like most people. There's lots of layers and reasons how it all started, but that was the origins, I guess. And I was born into a physical active family. We were always going on boats and physical activities and sporty and this sort of thing. So a physical influence. And where did it start? I'm going to dive straight into the deep end. um, when I was a little girl, I was abused, and being in a middle class army family, there was no way to express anything or to um, say anything, and I was left to deal with the situation myself as an 8-year old child, and nowhere to express. So down the line of that, when I became a teenager, I was severely bulimic, and I think, looking back on it, it was like suppressing feelings of memories and experiences that I had no way to express. And when I went through this bulimia, it was 10 years of hell. And at the end of it, when I started to heal, it was a point of no return. And I reached the bottom of the barrel, and I envisaged myself as a little old lady chucking up in the loo. And I thought, no, I don't want that. That's not going to happen. And that was the beginning. That was the first steps of the turnaround. And you'll see how, with the pain-free method, which is what I created, that was the early stages. I didn't know anything about what I was going to do back then, but that was the first stages. And that's how I teach people today with the pain-free method, is that you have to be ready and open to start healing. Like anything, you have to want it. And that was the first origins of it. I didn't want that future. And then shortly after that, I started doing Louise Hay's mirror work, where, Louise Hay, she's very, very a big name in the healing world. And I started to love myself. And that's also a core factor of the pain-free method, a very important core factor of healing. So that was the beginning of my healing, and it still took me another, 10 years of severe bulimia, and then 5 years until I stopped. But then I still had to deal with the experience that I'd come from. Meanwhile, on my professional life, in my 20s, I started to be a natural therapist. I studied things like shiatsu, acupressure, Chinese massage, Reiki, reflexology, all holistic things, all Eastern things, all looking at the mind body connection and techniques from that. And I was doing yoga myself and Tai Chi, and I started dancing back then. So um, in my professional life, I was doing all these lovely holistic things, and I started working in clinics and loving all this kind of work. Um, and then when I was in my 30s, around about 30, I got dumped in my personal life, back to the personal life again. And it was like a restart, a complete stop in my life. And I'd sort of reached the end of my How Do You Live Life book. um, and in this time, everything I kind of cracked open. All this studying and 10 years of study I'd been doing, working with a lot of people, and loving to help people with physical hands-on work. And then when I had this emotional shift, I started to become hypersensitive. I started to see through bodies and see past lives and hear people's feelings and hear spirit. And everything, just the sensitivities just opened up. I became clairaudient, clair everything, and um, and my treatments completely changed from that day. I I remember sitting waiting for a client in the clinic one day, and my I was just daydreaming, and my I was drawn to this lady looking at the bookshelf, and her back was to me. And I was at the time I was studying facial reading and how to see what's going on inside the body from the face. Um, and I saw her woman parts all grey, and in my mind's eye, I saw through her body, and it looked in a terrible state. It looked like I don't know what had happened to her, whether she'd had trauma or operations or miscarriages or something. Sorry, my cat's always come into these
You could
conversations.
you must never apologize for the presence of a cat.
I know, they just animals just seem to come onto these conversations. So yeah, I saw through this lady. I thought, oh my gosh, poor lady, as I said, I was studying facial analysis at the time for medical reasons. Looking at the face. And I thought, I wonder if you can see it on her face. It just looked terrible, whatever she'd been through. And at that moment, she turned around, and I thought, yeah, yeah, definitely you can see it on her face. And she looked drawn and grey. She had terrible bags under her eyes. She looked in a terrible state. So my senses all opened up at this time, and I carried on working with people. And I had like epiphany, like an awakening, a wake up call about how healing works. And what I realized is that you can do all these lovely things on yourself. You can get massages, you can go running, you can eat wonderful food, you can meditate all day long, but unless you connect to you inside, that you, how you tick and what you think and how you function and everything, um, then it's all futile. And what I find these days is that many times people come to me and they say, Althea, I've tried everything, nothing I haven't tried. And this is one of the reasons why we can try everything and it won't work. It won't change your life. It won't fix you, because it's missing the whole point, which is you come from you express from you, from who you are and how you think and what you've been through, and your body just reflects all of that. There's nothing actually wrong with your body, even if it seems like it, even if you're having a terrible time. Your body just reflects what's inside. So yeah, I went along this journey and this path, and it was amazing. And from that point, my treatments completely changed. And before, I felt like it was me helping the person. I would move muscles and stretch limbs or whatever with shiatsu and reflexology. But from this point, I started to connect to somebody inside, and I wouldn't start working on them until I felt that connection. And if I didn't, the treatment didn't work. It didn't work. And so what I realized is that we function, the healing happens all the time when we let it, when we allow it, and it comes from us. And that when we have symptoms, physical symptoms or emotional distress or past traumas or horrible life circumstances or difficult relationships, they're just signals to, they're all opportunities of healing. They're all opportunities of release, and they're signals to show us how to come back to a good place.
There's so much in what you've said, and your journey, it obviously is very touching to hear what what you've been through, as well, because
Mm.
my experience is that many a healer of your type, as in there's an added dimension of energy, if we can put it like that,
Definitely, definitely.
uh, has been through something that has opened them up in that way. So it's very interesting to hear your story. And it's in it you were listening to you and you were talking about the bulimia, and I was thinking, gosh, that really is a desire to purge, purge
Mm,
something.
there it
Be-
is. I feel
yeah,
the shivers. It's true.
yeah, why, it could have been anorexia, it could have been anything, it could have been addiction, it could have been anything, but actually it wasn't. It was bulimia, and I think that that speaks of this desire to purge the past, to purge the pain.
Mm,
uh, when I'm working with clients, we always begin by locating the emotion in the body. And people who have no experience of thinking in this way always manage to find the emotion in the body, to locate where that emotional pain is in the body. That's always our route in,
mm.
is to do that. So what you're talking about, this modality of healing, basically says, hey, your body is talking to you.
That's right.
Those
That's it.
symptoms are your body talking to you. And yes, we can look at it at a physical level. And how does that work out for you? Because so many of your clients are arriving going, I've tried everything. And what they mean is they've tried addressing the physical, they haven't
Yeah,
addressed the emotional. And I think that
right.
that's key there. So can you talk us through the the method that you're using to help people?
Yeah, so it started from that spark of realizing it's how you have to connect to yourself, and then I like things to be. I like to give people healing as soon as possible. Get the results they want as quickly as possible. So the way that I teach people how to do it is to connect to the problem in a way that it goes. So it's based on what you just said. So they come to me with physical things usually. Sometimes it's not physical. It might be anxiety or childhood traumas or insomnia or not such sort of physical things, but they come with a symptom, and I know that that's just the tip of the iceberg, and that's the beginning of the clues of the story. It's just the tip. So when you connect to what you're showing yourself in physical form or stressful form or something, and you connect with it in the way that I teach, you could just connect with it. And it's as simple as start by describing it. And that is a kind of connection already. So when you describe your problem, that's the start of it. And when you even when you connect to your problem, you might react to it, you might get defensive, you might your blockers might come up, you might say, oh, I can't find anything, I don't know what you mean, or I don't understand, or your blockers might come up, and these are your protectors, your defenses. But and which is healing in itself. Whatever comes up for you, when you connect to your problem, say like you've got backache or something, and you connect to it and you describe it, it's sore, it aches, it stops me moving, I can't walk properly, I've had to give up work. And so these are all pieces of the story, all of these words, all of these reactions. So I show you how to connect to all the pieces, and the more you connect to the whole story, the more you heal. So what I say is, pain is a message that wants to be heard, and it's a signal in the West, we're taught to suppress it and get rid of it, but that's the opposite of healing. That will ensure that it's going to get worse and it's going to get louder or more things, where you're going to keep suffering because you're not listening. And it's, it's not no fault of your own. It's we're not taught this stuff typically, unless you're a therapist like us, or you're into natural healing, or you listen to your instincts and you follow your own guide. We're not typically taught this stuff. So when you connect, which is what I teach, you connect to the problem. It's the beginning of the story. And the other thing I say is, I see it's like, imagine like we're a ball of multifaceted, all the things that includes you. So all your feelings, all your body, all your memories, all your character, all your everything that is you. I see it as like a sort of ball of Anna. And when we have troubles or stress or problems or symptoms, conditions, I see it's like, that's a piece of you going off. It's going off and it's calling your attention. And the degree to how bad it is, or how awful, how painful, how difficult that problem is the degree to how far you're splitting away from you. So what's the way to do it? You connect to the problem. And the moment you do that, you automatically align again, and then your whole system can get on with working as it's supposed to. Your it connects. It's like as you connect to the problem, in that moment, you automatically your mind, body, and soul automatically is aligned, and that's when healing happens. And it's miraculous. I've had people with full body arthritis, bedridden, who are pain free, completely pain free in 4 or 5 weeks. People with severe nerve problems. There's a lady who had, one of the first people I took through this was Lee, and she had trigeminal nerve pain, which is a 3 point nerve in the face, and she was suicidal. A lot of people come to me have reached that end point. They're suicidal, and they change their lives. They get their lives back. They become peaceful, happy, pain free. So not only do they learn how to get rid of their problem and understand it correctly, that it's not the problem, it's not a problem, it's an opportunity of release. It's a sign of where to focus to get to a good place. Not only do they get rid of the problem and feel relief as soon as possible, but they get to learn about their patterns and how they're triggered. It might be it's often from childhood, very often, sadly. um, and they get to recognize their patterns. So when you recognize what you're doing or how you're reacting, you can choose to change that. And then the 3 steps I teach is, first, how to get rid of it. The second is how to support that to happen, and then the third stage is stop it coming back. So in the second stage, there was a lady, Jocelyn, who had severe back problems, and she started to recognize what her triggers were, and when she understood that, she could make different decisions of how she lived her life and what she did and the choices she made. So she stopped the pain coming back. So that would be like a step 3 thing.
So several thoughts are going through my mind. And the first is, I can hear doubting voices.
People are
Uh,
always skeptical when they come to me. It's okay, it still works.
yeah, I can hear what the doubting voices would say. And it's the first thing that they might say is, now, come on, Althea. What about joint pain? Cartilage wears off, so you have pain in your knees. This isn't really going to work for that, is it?
Yeah, because that's the way we're taught, isn't it? That your physical body has got nothing to do with your thoughts, nothing to do with your feelings, nothing to do with your past. It's all separate pieces. And you go to the ENT for your ears, and you go to the skin specialist for your skin. But that's not how life is. It all works together. Everything's connected. So I worked with a lady, Jo, who had severe knee problems. You mentioned knees. I bring her in because she's a good. Well, this this is one of multiple examples, but she came to me with knee problems, and she said it was like child's rubber ring and armbands, swimming armbands around. The swelling was like that around her knees, and she could barely get out the car. So she was in that place, and I we did a call together, and the next day the swelling had gone. So meanwhile, that day she had been to the doctors, and she was hobbled in. She could barely stand up. Her sister kind of dragged her in, and the doctor immediately set her up for an MRI scan and gave her a note to be off work for a week. I mean, she couldn't. She could barely walk, and it affected everything. It affected her sex life. It affected. She had to go all the way around this way to work, where it was flat, where the tram that she used, rather than just going in the usual way where there were steps. She couldn't. Um, and her love life was affected. She couldn't go on the beach. She lived in Australia, so she couldn't go on the beach. She couldn't stand up. And one call it took, and the next day the swelling completely gone down. However, what are knees about? Knees are about change or movement or flexibility or going forward or changing. And she had lots going on in her love life. She mentioned her private, that she had problems with having sex because she had such pain in the knees. So what was going on in her relationship life? There was challenges there, let's say. And she wasn't sure about staying in Australia. So there were lots of big things. And, just because it's your physical body knees, but then big things were happening in her life. How does that not connect? When you get stressed, your shoulders get tight, physical shoulders get tight. And if the stress continues, all the fibers of the muscle start buckling up. You might get distracted and brain fog. You might get memory loss. You might get insomnia. That's a physical thing. You might get forgetful, and because of the intensity of the stress, so our physical body directly reflects how we feel, what's happening in our lives, how we think, what's going on in our thoughts, what we've been through. It all works together. So hopefully that looking at the bigger picture of a person, looking at the whole picture, it's completely understandable how the body reflects what you're feeling and how you're living, and it's all reflective like mirrors. So when you focus on the physical, you're actually connecting to all other parts of you at the very same time, and it's actually you showing yourself where to focus, where what's getting separated, what needs connecting with. Like if you get stress in your shoulders because you get tightness in your shoulders because you're stressed, you'll get that signal like, oh, I've got to change that job, I'm not happy, I've got to change things. So that's a thought, that's a life situation, that's a physical body connection. Does that help clarify things?
Yeah, and it does. And I do hope people understand that, because apart from anything else, people generally underestimate the part that tension plays in the musculature of the body and how that contributes to pain. It's just recently I had a wonderful conversation for Pet Talk, my other channel. Now this is about dogs, and the lady I was interviewing, wonderful Julia Robertson, who's a specialist in Gallon myotherapy. And so this is a technique that helps with musculature and muscle pain in dogs. And I had invited her in to talk about joint pain specifically. And what it turns out is that joint pain, by and large, is caused by tightness in the body and the musculature. So that was a very interesting conversation, because we were exploring exactly the role of pain, or the role of muscle tightness in pain as relates to joints. So when we're looking at the emotional side of things for us as human beings, we need to understand the impact that tension has on our muscles and how that contributes to pain overall. So that's very clear.
Yeah.
So what about, so that makes sense. We can pick it apart and we can see, okay, well, that makes sense. But what about situations where it's really an internal thing? Are you, because I can hear people asking, oh, this is not psychosomatic. The tests have come back. The MRI has come
Definitely.
back, and it shows that there is an actual problem with the knee, or there's been a problem that shows that there is a problem with the gut lining. And so this acid reflux that's happening is real. I'm not imagining it, it's
Yep.
real.
Absolutely.
How does that work?
Well, that's all. This is all physical, isn't it? And but you're not just physical. You're also, why have you got all that stuff going on? And how does it affect you? And how do you feel it in yourself? So that's emotions, and that's thought, and that's triggers things in you, and it all works together. If you just stay in the physical, it'll never make sense. If you just stay in the logic and try to understand it, it's never going to make sense. But you know that if you go running, you sweat, and the sweat is not the problem. It's the running and heating up, and the muscles all working, and the blood, the sweat's trying to cool you down. That's all the function of the body. But you don't say, "Oh, sweat is terrible. Get rid of the sweat. I want to run. Stop sweating." It all, there's all the body, the physical body works as it does, but it's not. We aren't just physical bodies. It all works together. You know, uh, the intention of running, and the wanting to do it, and how it makes you feel, and the goals you want to achieve. It's all these are parts of the same thing. And but going purely into the physical, our bodies are not just lumps of sort of flesh. They're living, breathing cells that all have an intelligence, all work together. And I like to say, by the time something's got physical, it's got to a very dense, demanding place. And a lot of people by the time they come to me, I mean, this stuff works, healing works for little niggles and stresses or anything. It's not just for long-term chronic pain, but I like to specialize in that. I like the big wow. I like to change people's lives and turn their lives around. Um, but um, lost my track a bit there, but um,
Niggles.
I lost my track. It all works together, but if you just focus on the physical, you can still do the method, and you still can do the method, and as you get the evidence, this creates belief. I can't sit here and say you do it like this, and this is how it happens, and you can have bone on bone arthritis and then you're pain free. It won't make sense. But when you live it and feel it and experience it, it works very, very quickly. And when you get the results, when you feel the difference, if I gave you a bunch of flowers and it made you feel good, that euphoria, it sends that pleasure sends signals to your brain of good feeling endorphins, and it floods your system. And you might feel an emotional connection with me, and you might feel happiness within you, and your physical eyes will shine bright, and you'll feel so happy because someone gave you a bunch of flowers that you wanted, and they look so beautiful, and you smell it, so you're smelling in those flowers, and that physically makes you feel good, sending good feeling endorphins to the brain, and the brain reflects it down through your body again, equilibrium, so it makes your body relax and your joints relax, and the pleasure of having that moment of flowers. So it's a whole package of how it all works. And when we get, say, for example, the type bone on bone arthritis, I mean, that lady is not just bone on bone arthritis that she had. She's also bedridden, and all the trauma and stress and horrendousness that must have created have built up to that moment for her. But what was that for her? It was also her husband was doing everything for her. She couldn't function. She couldn't do the housework or anything. So that's you talk about tension. That's a lot of tension there. That's a lot of must be exhaustion and worry and fears. And maybe she was taking a medication, so that'll be all acidity in the body. But what's that doing to her? So when she did the method, I teach you, I show you how to connect with it, how to support the healing to happen. So you want to be, drinking water, doing physical. The doing thing comes from supporting your body. So drinking water, having a good night's sleep, maybe using essential oils or helping things. There are multiple things there. And then where are you going with it? Where's your belief? So belief says. Talk about not believing it or skepticism. Your belief system is critical, because if you don't believe you can heal, then you won't. Your body doesn't bypass you, it reflects you. So if you think it's not possible or how can that be, then that's the fact. That's a fact. Nothing's going to get past that. However, many people come to me and they are resistant or skeptical, and you must address that, because you can't get past that if you feel skeptical. So I show you how to connect to any resistance you have so that you're free to have the results you want. And so it's physical, it's emotional, it's belief systems, it's physically doing the actions that help yourself as well. It's the whole package. I do encourage exercise and good eating as well. But the magical formula that that it is connecting, noticing that you have a problem, and it might be physical, it might be self attack, like I used to have when I went through my story. It was a lot of self-detest, and that's a thing that creates darkness of the soul, that creates depression, that creates um, uh, paranoia, and you can't agoraphobia, and problems around food and all sorts of things. That's my story. But it's never just physical, and the physical condition is not the problem. It's a reflective of the whole picture. But what's so wonderful is that the body never lies. It's always what it is on the tin, as that advert says. So what's so brilliant is that when you have the right mindset of the rule book of how healing works, pain is a message that wants to be heard. You've got to connect with it. It's that part of you lifting away from you. You've got to connect with it. And the moment you do that, everything's aligned and you'll start functioning as it's all supposed to, and pain will drop away. It drops away. It just comes. You come back. You come into a good feeling place, and you actively you activate that yourself. And that's what I guide you. That's what I teach. I show you how to do all of that, and it's all simple stuff.
And so I can hear somebody asking, well, how do we know that's real? How do we know that
Well, you'll
it's
feel it. You'll feel it.
that we've actually healed, that it's not, kind of festering inside, getting bigger, but we've lost the pain? How do we know that?
Then you keep connecting until you come into a good place. So healing is not about fixing anything. So when you have that arthritis, that headache, that joint pain, it's when you connect with it, you're actually connecting to the entirety of what's created it. So that's your emotions, your mind, your body, your whatever is in your head, your experiences. And as you do that, you come into alignment and you come into a good feeling place. So it's not about fixing anything. There's nothing wrong with you, there's nothing wrong with your body. So this is the first stages that I teach, because if you come to me and you think, okay, I think let me get rid of my thing, get rid of my backache, it's never going to work. Um, you have to do the actions. So Tell me your question again. I keep going off on tangents. I'm
I,
so passionate about it.
very simple, isn't it? What you've just said. It's not, we're not teaching you to mask the pain. This,
Absolutely not.
this
Fully
is
embrace it. Mm,
exactly, you're teaching people to actually go into the symptoms that they're
yeah,
experiencing,
that's
because
right.
those symptoms are symptomatic of something else that's going on at an emotional level. So, yes, there's symptoms of something going on at a physical level, but there's symptoms of something going on at an emotional level. And if you understand and address the emotional issues, that has an impact on the body, which is beyond being free from pain. It's actually healing what's going on in the body. And so, I guess, to address this skeptical question that people might have as to whether the healing is really happening, do you have examples of people who then, had went for further tests and discovered that everything was now clear?
Multiple, endless. There's loads and loads of testimonials on my website, on my YouTube channel, and you can hear them to your heart's content. Um, but it's always starts. Healing only starts from you see, that's that logical, practical world we live in, isn't it? Show me evidence and show me the MRI scan or whatever. And many people do have tests, but the main thing is they can feel it. I mean, I've had it happens all the time that when you do the correct actions, your body automatically responds. It's just like when you eat, when you have that feeling of you're hungry and you eat, that I'm hungry message goes away. And all pain is exactly the same. It's embracing the full story. What's your pain really all about? It's the tip of the iceberg of what's created it. It's not the problem itself. That's the messenger. Pain is a message, it wants to be heard. So when you make the message go away and you suppress it with medication, or you cut it out, or you try to ignore it or suppress it, or try to think of something else, you're missing the point, and it has to get worse. It will get worse. It will shout louder that I'm hungry. If you don't feed yourself, it'll continue to get worse and worse and worse, and you'll get faint and dizzy, and down that route it's anorexia and death. So all these signals, we have these signals all day long, and they're always trying to get us into a good place. You need to move, you need to lie down, you need to go and eat something, you're thirsty. All these messages are continually guiding us, and sometimes we don't listen for maybe an emotional trauma reason, or maybe you didn't know that, you're ignoring it. You've learnt the Western way, like most of us. You make pain go away, and that's what's going to work, but it doesn't. That's the evidence of it. That doesn't work. Pain relief doesn't work like that. Healing doesn't work like that. You have to come into alignment, and that's why instead do the helping things. One of the most important things you can do for yourself is meditate every single day, often more than every day if you want. And this is an alignment action. So when you have a symptom, a problem, a difficulty, a stress, and anxiety, whatever, it's a signal of out of alignment stuff. And when you connect with it, you come back into alignment, and everything will be well. So it's like I've been watching animal communication recently a lot, and I find that it's exactly the same as healing, that you have to come into a good feeling place, do things that make you well, do things that make you happy, allow yourself to have that, to be that, eat good food because it makes you feel good, not because you're going to lose weight or it's the right thing to eat, no, but because it makes you feel good, and it does good things for you, and you benefit from it. And um, become the person that you want to be. If you're having stresses with a relationship, what's really going on there? Why are you with somebody that's causing you stress? What's going on in you? And it's never about what's outside of us or the other person. It's all about aligning with ourselves. It's tuning into you. If you're not happy and you're having a physical bone on bone condition, skin rashes or headaches, migraines, you're out of alignment with you. That's the truth of it. No blame, no criticism. It's a fact of life and um, see things correctly, and then how do you get yourself back into a good place? The first step is, do you want to? Are you ready? Have you had enough of being like that and that troubles and traumas and things and difficult place? Are you ready to let that go? And you tune into you, and that's the pain-free method. How do you do that? And the easiest way to start is just start by describing your problem. And when you do that, you automatically come into alignment. Just describe your thing, describe how it feels, and that description actually describes the reason it's there, the root cause, and that's the beginning of the journey. Does that make sense? Is that
It's complete.
helpful?
Thank you so much. Um, it's wonderful to hear that. Do you actually see in the person's, do you, because some people will see illness in the aura, in the energy body. So do you see the question I really want to ask is, can you see a condition developing before it becomes physical?
Well, I'm very sensitive, and I've looked into all sorts of spiritual things, but I'm a practical girl, and I've been working in clinics for 30 years, so I see the form and function of the body. I'm a geography girl. I'm a biology girl. Aerobics. I'm a practical girl. So by the time, but I understand things spiritually as well. So I used to say, like, by the time it's become physical, that comes from a thought or a feeling, and it's developed into a loud signal, a loud alarm signal. It's become dense energy. So happening before, well, I don't really go there because there's no point. It just is what it is. If you're in a good place, great, be happy. But if you're in a terrible place, my mind starts going into analyzing what's going on. What's the story of this person? When somebody comes to me, the first thing I'm very analytical, and I see in pictures and form and story, and I immediately start thinking, what's your story? If you've got headaches all the time, I know the energy's gone up to the head. I thought, what's all that about? And migraines, by the way, are often sexual repression. Um, so it's like the energy's gone up to the head, and there's an intensity in the head for some reason. So seeing it before it happens, I'm not really into that. But you can prevent things by being in a good place often, and
Yeah,
recognize little signals will go to big places. I mean, people who come to me are in chronic long-term condition with the long-term conditions, but they didn't start like that. They usually started, the majority of time started little niggles and things. I want to say a story about this lady that kind of represents what we're talking about here. It's always the story of the person, and connecting to all parts releases it for good. So this lady came to me with severe shooting knee pain that she only had when she walked down the stairs. And as she connected to her severe, took her breath away knee pain, um, naturally, when you connect to the problem, you start tuning in to what's creating it. So when she was 16, and she was 50 something when she came to me with the knee pain, but as she connected to it, when she was 16, this story popped up about back then. And she was an Irish girl going to England, and she was going across on the ferry. And apparently, this is the thing. I've heard it from other Irish people, that this is a thing back then, that she was going across to England at 16, a babe, a young girl, daunted, scared, frightened, overwhelmed to start this new life. What a knee's all about, moving forward, change, flexibility. And she remembered walking down the steps of this ferry. So can you imagine? This is what her body was. When we have pain and conditions that need to be addressed and we can't ignore it anymore, this tells me that you're ready to release it. So she found me at this stage of knee pain. The doctors couldn't find anything. She tried everything, nothing worked, because you have to connect to it and release the story of it. The more you connect, the more it will release, and it never comes back. So it's you telling yourself that you're ready to release it. So as she connected to the knee pain, this story popped up into her head, and we talked about it and what it was like. And that was the beginning of the story. There was lots more to her story, but this was a key turning point. And the knee pain lessened, but there was more stuff in there. So the pain that you experience and the symptoms that you experience, the problems you experience, connect to it, and as you do, it releases. Does, is that helpful for how does it
Yeah.
release it?
Oh, absolutely it does. And as a hypnotherapist, people come to me with all sorts of issues. And the one that most closely resembles this is phobias, because we are very good at projecting things that we don't want to deal with onto other things. And so phobias often have a very symbolic function. And when we understand and talk through the emotion behind the phobia, we are able then to connect with the actual cause of the phobia, which has nothing to do with whatever is manifesting. It's got nothing to do with spiders. It's to do with something else. And so there's
Exactly.
a parallel here in terms of the symptoms in the body. And I'll tell you, I love what you do, and I am so grateful for your time in explaining this to us today. And so, if people want to find you, how do they do that?
Yep. So I have a website which is painfreedom.co.uk, and there's a free guide on there. So if you're still feeling very skeptical, which is really normal, I would say 100% of my clients when they start with me, they're all skeptical. So that would be a great place to start. Get the free guide, and that's the beginning of understanding, getting the right mindset. What's the messages of your body? What does your back pain mean? What does your migraines mean? What this is a great way to engage the mind, because if you're skeptical, you're just not going to go there, and it won't make sense. It'll sound like woo with it is that famous sort of thing people say, isn't it? But the free guide will get you started, and then if you feel like another small toe forward and you're ready to start healing, because really it's about you. It's about, are you ready to start healing? And then it works. So I run a monthly call, which is just a single call to get a taster of the Pain Free Method, how it works, and experience it, because that makes a massive shift when you feel it. And I'm on the call with you. I talk you through it. Like, how does it work? And you start getting results, or you start. Not everybody gets results on that call, but you start with, what do you do? Because sometimes pain and conditions are really stubborn, and it's not going to shift on one call. But then some people who are in the moment they're ready, they just need that last sort of piece of the puzzle, and they've had fantastic results from just a single call. So it depends where you are in your healing. So that would be the great next step to come to that monthly call. And if you do need more, I run a 90-day program, and so we'd have a conversation together, a free consultation, and talk about what is it you want, and look at the options and see what's the right fit for you, and get healing. So, but it all starts with, are you ready and are you open? That's an important, critical factor.
It is always a critical
Yeah.
factor, as
Yeah.
my teacher used to say when I was training in hypnotherapy. Um, the question always comes down to, have you suffered enough yet?
It is. It is, because you won't hear it. When I was 10 years bulimic, I don't think I would have listened to anything. I'm very autonomous. I wanted to figure it out. I didn't want anyone in my world. I wanted to do it. It wasn't until that I'd run out of my things, and then I let the light in, and I found Louise Hay. You know what they say is, when the student's ready, when the teacher appears, isn't it? And it won't. You can't go there if you're not ready. You might try things out, and which can help.
Well, here you are today, appearing, hopefully, for anyone who is ready. So thank you so much for your time today.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it, and I hope this gives people some inspiration, hope, and light that it's really possible to heal. You don't have to be suffering.
Absolutely. Thank you all for watching. Next time, we're going to be looking at crystals. Until then, goodbye.